What is a jewelry design center?
JDC is a family-owned business with deep roots in Montana. Why Montana? Because this community made us. Made us family, made us artisans, made us believe in love, made us hometown heroes. Because this community made us shine. Why Montana? Because Montana is home.
Well, I'm about an hour and 45 minutes into the Griz fan pod for the week. And these guys have regressed to fully talking about their favorite places to eat in Cut Bank, Montana. The closing, potentially, of the iconic Italian restaurant in Stevensville, Marie's. That's all to say this is about exactly what you'd think coming out of a 24-0, don't really know what to take from it game for the Grizzlies, and Montana State had a bye. So I don't know what the heck we're going to talk about, but we're here to talk. Tuesdays with Tootell, back for yet another week. How you doing, man?
Great, man. Good for those boys to get into the hour 45-minute mark. I mean, I know that's standard, but like I thought maybe this week, maybe we get her to 90 and call it a day. But no, sir.
Hey, when you got one show a week, you can hang out with your buddies for a couple hours. And when you told your wife you're not going to be home until 10, you make it last until 10.
You make sure.
Especially now that they got the Kettle House giving them free beer. I mean, you know, there's perks to the non-paying jobs out there.
Complete respect.
Hey, no doubt.
Absolutely.
A couple things for you before we get to some Big Sky Conference stuff. First of all, this Friday at the Wilma, this is fun. We're promoting this all across Missoula Broadcasting Company stations as well. This is our mutual friend, RJ LaValle, who's helping put this on. RJ's working at the All Nations Health Center now, and they are hosting a Trends and Traditions of the Plains Indigenous Film and Fashion Show. So this is a film festival for 3 hours, then a bison feed for 2 hours, and then a fashion show for another 3 hours. So you can go help get Indigenous Peoples Month kicked off at the Wilma between 1:30 and 9 p.m. on Friday. That's November 1st. So good job by these folks, All Nations Health Center, the Indigenous Made Montana, and Cora K Productions. Should be fun. Did you go to any Big Sky Doc Fest films last year?
Not in this most recent cycle.
But you have in
lots.
the past, of course.
Yeah, lots. Love it. I think it's one of the great events in the city.
No doubt.
Every year, and just the culture and the things that can bring by way of education and interest and entertainment and all of that stuff, and the people who make them. I think
totally
is the real kicker for me. I mean, the films themselves, the documentaries are fantastic. And I think, as they're designed to do, they open a window into a world that very often you didn't even know existed. Not that you didn't have an idea of like what it would be like in this particular place, but there's somebody harvesting bee honey in the cliffs of Afghanistan?
Right.
How about that?
Right.
Like, that's something that never occurred to me before. So that's anyway, yeah, there's my
one of the highlights of this film festival on Friday is a replaying of the awesome documentary Bring Them Home. And it's all about the modern-day Blackfeet trying to bring the bison back to the Rocky Mountain front, basically. And there is some bison there, but they were trying to bring back like this giant herd, and it's just a really cool story and sort of a full circle moment for the Blackfeet as a people. And so if you can, I think you should go certainly check this out. The film festival, 1:30 to 4:30 at the Wilma, then a bison feed, and then the fashion show from 6 to 9. Get tickets on all of All Nation Health Center's social medias. Very active on Instagram and Facebook. You can also go to Logjam Presents website and find tickets as well. How's your travels been?
Well, just a couple things on this because we have limited Griz talk.
We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. Very limited about Montana's 24-0 win over Northern Colorado.
But RJ was over at my house on Sunday.
Nice, cool.
Hamburgers, and he's been a longstanding friend of both of ours.
Yep.
And the work that he is doing and they are doing here is fantastic. And so just an additional personal.
Yes.
If you have any inclination or thought that maybe you're looking for something to do or just this might be a good thing, I just can't think of a better way to spend your time and something to give toward. And then additionally to that, I'm whatever, 4th, 5th generation Montana, however far back it goes. I've spent most of my Montana time in western Montana, most of that in Missoula, but a fair amount also in Polson, both living there and then and going up to recreate and all of that, like many people. I've probably driven from Missoula to Polson 1,000 times in my life, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I probably have done it 1,000 times. over the course of years, you kind of you're like, oh, there's the National Bison Range, and you kind of take it for granted. And we went there as kids in school, like for what is field
trip.
Yeah, there's the word. It's been a long time since I've been on a field trip, Colter.
I'm glad they still do them.
But maybe it's, I get a little older, I get a little more sentimental, I get a little more emotional, but just driving past the bison range and seeing the animals up there on the range, on the hill,
it's
the
pretty cool.
way that they are supposed to be, just existing in their natural state. And I know that it's enclosed, but it's big enough that the enclosure, creates an essentially a natural, equilibrium. And it just brings me a joy that I had never expected it to when I go by and I see the bison on the range. And the Bring Them Back campaign, I think, is just one of the great proposals. And I mean, we have done so very much harm. I mean, when I say that, I'm talking about, of course, going back to what, should have been the case.
For sure.
I mean, there should be 3-to-1 bison to deer in the world here, and it just isn't. And so I think, anyway, I would love to see that and more of those, and just, that there's no reason that it shouldn't be the case. So let's bring them back.
Tuesdays with Tootell, probably presented by George Bailey and Caldwell Banker Real Estate. George had a great analogy. He says, talking sports is like hosting a tailgate. You bring everybody in to talk, and then all of a sudden you can talk about sports, and then you can also pitch them some business. These guys are awesome when it comes to real estate, whether you're looking to upgrade, downsize, you're looking for your forever home, you're looking for your retirement home. George Bailey, Caldwell Banker. Also check out Caldwell Banker's awesome move meter. You want to compare and contrast just different areas in the state or the country where you might be able to move. You can plug in your address and then maybe where you're looking at, and it can give you this whole analysis of everything good, everything bad, all the cost benefits, the economy, all that sort of stuff. Appreciate George and his team for supporting us here at the Big Sky Breakdown. All right, only 3 games in the league this last week.
Good weekend for Idaho.
Big Sky Conference did something right, though. There's been all these weird different adjustments, and there's been just endless complaining about the unbalanced schedule. You got 8 league games, 12 teams. It's just never going to be equitable.
Sure.
Who's rival? Who gets to be rivals with Northern Colorado and get a free win every year? Like that. Poor Northern Colorado. Actually, not poor Northern Colorado. They just shouldn't be.
Just be better or go do something else.
Or just go D2.
Yeah.
They should just be an affiliate member in everything but football.
Just
and they should
Mines and Northern Colorado should just be playing each other as rivals.
They should, man. I mean, here's the thing, man. Northern Colorado wouldn't even compete within the Colorado D2 schools, man.
Right.
Like Colorado State Pueblo is better. Colorado Mines is probably better. Like we don't need to get down into these weeds too much. But the Big Sky did change when everybody gets their buys. Mm-hmm. It used to be that you'd have 1 or 2 teams each week would get a bye week 2 through 7 of the league season. So sometimes you're getting a bye in September. Sometimes you don't get your bye till November. Inequitable. Now, middle 2 weeks of October, half the league, half the league. That was the last 2 weeks. Then you roll into November, and everybody plays. Full slate.
There is no reason not to do it like that. I think
for sure
everybody takes the print from the NFL, but the NFL needs teams to be playing every week to pay off their broadcast rights and all of that. So it's inequitable, and it's going to stay inequitable in the NFL. It doesn't need to be that way in college football.
Yes.
And so this is the right way to go. So good on Tom Wistersill and the conference for making this move.
Man, I was thinking about this last night with the Steelers playing the Giants, and then next week the Giants have to be in Germany. Like, I think that we just take this for granted. Like, think about how strenuous it is just as a human to, like, just go on a cross-world trip. But then to do it in 5 days after Monday Night Football and then come home, like, the very next day, man, it would just wreck you. It would just be so hard on you.
The amount of time and effort and work that has been put into, like, how and when should we travel, and what should we eat, and when should we sleep, and what pills should we take to sleep or to stay awake or whatever for these NFL teams to go internationally and play football and then come back. And there's just no magic bullet, man. Like,
for sure,
you just kind of got to go do the thing. But yeah, and the other thing too is Germany is just it's notably farther than London. Like the London,
Yes,
the
right.
London games from the East Coast are not that different than just flying to the West Coast.
It was about 4-hour flight, probably.
I mean, I think it's
4 or 5.
because the other thing is people always, we look at the map east to west. You're going north to fly to England, and
Sure,
you just go over
right,
the top.
right,
And
right.
it's not that it's not long, but it's not noticeably longer than just
New York to Seattle or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Germany is longer.
Oh, for sure.
Germany,
I mean, it's
Germany,
the continent
well,
longer.
I mean, it's in the middle, but it's more. And but what is crazy, Germany is into the NFL. Like they're selling this
for
thing
sure
out in
believe
like a minute.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's just crazy. So they're not going to not do it. You're just going to have to. Sorry, New York, you're already not good. I guess just take your lumps.
Here's your Big Sky scoreboard. Montana 24-0 over Northern Colorado. Idaho State. This game was utterly captivating for all. I'm not going to say the wrong reasons, but it really was just like such a reinforcement of what Big Sky Conference football has become when it's outside of like the premier powers. First of all, Idaho State doesn't have any commercials sold on the stream. So every time they'd go to break, it was just the field.
Yeah.
And the announcers' mics were hot, like the whole game. They didn't say anything bad, but it was just like, "Hey, Jim, when we come back, we got 30."
Right.
So bad, and nobody told them. This is like our broadcaster's worst nightmare, right?
Well, and the streams. More than one person's been fired on account of the hot mics on the stream breaks,
buddy.
and it's just something that you have to know if you're doing that business, like and almost assume
For sure.
But nonetheless, you sit there even as a listener on a little bit of pins and needles is like,
Oh, buddy.
what's Al about to say?
Oh, man.
Here about.
Well, and then
a coach or
I
a
started
guy?
tweeting it, and I was attaching the athletic department stuff, not to like call them out, to be like, "Hey, you guys should go down there and tell them.
Let 'em
man.
know.
You should
Yeah.
tell them, because it's not even like you're going to say something so bad. Like, what if you just say something like about your family, or like, "Hey,
Right.
I got to go pick." Like, just weird, just a weird thing. Anyways, the game itself was totally haphazard, just a complete 21-21 shootout in the first half, and then no touchdowns in the second half. Both teams are trying to play ball control, even though neither one really does that. And it somehow, some way ended up in Idaho State winning. Good win for Idaho State. Terrible loss for Sac State. Sac State put a fork in them, man. They're done. That's 5 losses.
How about Sac State? The Sac State is the most disappointing team in the Big Sky Conference,
Yes,
I think, this
they are.
season.
They are.
And for the heights that they had, ascended to and winning Big Sky championships and being nationally, top 5 ranked, hosting playoff games, they're back to being the Sacramento State of old at this moment in time, and it's it's disappointing.
The thing that's crazy too is, I was listening to some other commentary about this. A lot of times when a team takes a huge step back like this, there's a perception that it's because their talent got significantly worse. Now, I don't think Sac State's talent got significantly worse. I still think they actually are pretty talented. That's the other thing, though, is that talent was almost never their problem. Like Sac State was, even during their pre-Troy Taylor very mediocre days, they weren't going 500 because of lack of talent. They were putting as many dudes in the NFL as anybody. They just didn't know how to win. Then they got a coach in Troy Taylor who taught them how to win. Mm-hmm. And now you just wonder what the whole scenario is like. We very much like Andy Thompson. I consider him a friend in the coaching business, as well as a guy that has always been great to us from a professional perspective. I mean, he's such a likable guy. He's obviously got deep Missoula ties. He's married to a gal from Missoula, played at Montana, all these sorts of things. But, and I'm not saying that this is completely his fault. I also wonder if sort of the environment around this has influenced their season. Sac State has been at the top of all of this conversation of who's going where. They raised, allegedly, all this NIL money. They made this giant push for the Pac-12. Is that a distraction? Is it a distraction to the team? Is it a distraction to the players? Is Andy Thompson wondering what his future is, regardless of what the record is, if they do make the move? Or is he relishing in the fact that maybe he's going to be a Pac-12 coach without doing anything? I don't know. there's a lot to it. But either way, 1-3 in the Big Sky coming into November. This is a team that won the league 3 years in a row, and then last year, quote unquote, took a step back. They're still 6-2, made the playoffs, and won a playoff game.
Andy Thompson was also notably the DC for Troy Taylor. He's been, in the league coaching for a long, long time, so he knows
Absolutely.
He knows the deal. But he is a very different person and coach than Troy Taylor. And Troy Taylor was the exact right guy at Sacramento State. And even though you promote from within and you go with the guy who makes all the sense and has the resume and was there and all of that kind of stuff, like, it's just very different. I mean, and clearly it's not working. I mean, at the end of the day, likable, good dude, all that kind of stuff, like the performance of a football team falls at the feet of the football coach, and there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, even Robert Saleh, right, and the New York Jets, you look now and you go, oh, well, probably Robert wasn't the problem.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, it's your team and you're responsible for the performance of that team. But also at the administrative level, if you got a guy like Troy Taylor, it totally makes sense why you would promote from within, and why you would go with Andy Thompson. And he deserves a shot, and he's very qualified.
Yes.
But you took a much harder, just 90-degree turn from what you were doing by hiring him than what people want to think is like the seamless transition of we just keep this thing rolling with an internal hire. Lots of internal hires turn out to be wildly different than what they had been with the coach that was in place before.
Yeah, the thing that's also striking is that a lot of times I think you overrate or underrate the influence of the head coach. Troy Taylor didn't take anybody from the staff with him. It's the same staff besides Troy Taylor.
Yeah.
So what's the difference here?
Mm-hmm.
Troy Taylor.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much of it is Troy Taylor I'm not going to say he brought this idea to the league, but he did it the best out of everybody, where he had his 2-quarterback system, and he did it brilliantly. Jake Dunaway is the thrower. Asher O'Hara is the runner. They're confusing everybody. They're running this 2-quarterback system. I mean, they had the Grizzlies head spinning for 2 years in a row.
Yep.
And basically everybody else they played too. That's why they won the league 3 times in a row. Andy Thompson and Bobby Fresca, who's the offensive coordinator, has tried to carry this over, and it hasn't worked. And the downside of what the 2-quarterback system can become is what's happened at Sac. They tried to run a 2-quarterback system. One of the guys who's the incumbent starter, Caden Bennett, didn't like that. Then he kind of goes in the tank confidence-wise. Now he's not playing.
Yeah.
The other guy, you had to go with the other guy because one guy's not producing. Well, now you got all sorts of internal turmoil. It's just not good. Regardless, the other news is that Idaho State won their second league game, and it's a low bar to be better than Idaho State has been, but they got 4 wins, and that's one less win than the 3 seasons combined before this one. So they're objectively, they've gotten better.
Five Valleys Restoration, your view is our view, and what a beautiful view it is. We are proud to be locally owned, locally operated. We love our community here in Missoula and also the full 5 valleys that we do service. We give back to the community, we service our community. Our kids go to school here, we live here, we play here, and we love it here.
Our family on our mom's side has a deep Montana history, especially stemming from Butte and Helena. And we are so proud. One of the things we are most proud of is to call ourselves Montanans. At Up Top Clothing, they have Montana-made and Montana-branded clothing for both men and women. Their Montana Till I Die collection is one of my favorite collections anywhere in the clothing world. And you can shop online and get the Montana Till I Die collection and all the other great gear that Up Top Clothing makes delivered right to your doorstep. Visit teamuptop.com. And if you use the promo code Skyline15, you're going to get a discount on all your online ordering. Teamuptop.com, Up Top Clothing, reminding you to take a step back and enjoy the moment.
You know who didn't have the Grizzlies head spinning? Northern Colorado.
Yeah, that's for sure, man.
Northern Colorado puts up a goose egg for the second consecutive game. Is that 3 now?
3,
Okay.
99-0. The Grizzlies beat Northern Colorado. The last 3 matchups. Here's a good one for you.
Let's hear it.
Northern Colorado has not scored against Montana since
Bob
since
Stitt?
2017 when they beat Bob Stitt and Greeley.
Yeah, that was
Yikes.
a pretty horrific loss, to say the least. But as you said, 24-0. basically 500, a little under 500 on the completion percentage through the air, 15 to 31 for 153 yards. But on the ground, the Grizzlies, dominated in every way you can really dominate. And really, Northern Colorado came out of the gate with a few things where they executed and gained some yardage in their first drive or two.
Sure.
And then the door just got absolutely slammed in their face, not to mention, the turnovers, obviously 3 interceptions leading the way there, but 2.8 yards per carry in this game. You can't do better than a shutout. And
Correct.
So you say, hey, Grizz defense, excellent game, and it was an excellent game. And this building on the back of a very strong performance a week ago. Or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, after,
Right.
Prior to the bye. But we said this 3 weeks ago after Montana had given up 52 in a loss to Weber State. That after having given up, was it 49, something like that?
Correct,
In a
49
win
at Eastern Washington,
at Eastern
yeah.
Washington. That we aren't going to be able to say that Montana has got the defense sorted out for a month from that point, which we still have not gotten to
That's right.
yet. So
Now we won't again.
that's
They
right.
play Cap Poly this week.
That's right. So, listen, if they gave up 7 or 14 points, would you have thought any less of the Grizz defense in this particular matchup? Probably not. But putting up a
Also, if they give up 7 or 14 points, do they just go score 42?
right.
Bobby Houck
yeah.
reveled in the fact that Ed Lamb, as soon as he saw that Ed Lamb wanted to play ball control, he's like, that's great. We're going to have 2 9-minute scoring drives. And they did.
Yeah. And you're totally right. You're in such control that you can pretty much score when you want, as much as you want or need to.
Like we always say, Bobby Houck's dream game is 31-3.
Well,
and if they score at the very end, they beat them 31-0, which is a little bit better than his dream game.
Yeah, this is the dream, and good for Montana. They execute. They're good for Montana. You're just the far superior team in every possible way to Northern Colorado,
Correct.
And you went on the road and did what you should do, and sort of imposed your will across the board. We got the 75% 25 split of Ayat to Fife in this game, and I sit here with my palms to the heavens, and
Did you hear the post game? I should have sent you the soundbite we played on the show yesterday.
please.
Basically, Bobby was asked what the plan was for the quarterbacks coming in, and he said we had a plan that we were going to play both. Then he was asked how Ayat played. He said, well. That was it, one word, well. He played well. And then Frank Gagola from the Missoulian, bless his heart, for keep on going back, Frank. I appreciate it. He says, what's sort of the strategy behind, or I guess, how do you go about knowing when to rotate guys? And Bobby says, completely by feel. And so then Frank asks again, do you plan on rotating quarterbacks in the future? And Coach Houck says, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't feel like it. So that's it.
Yeah. So this is just here's the thing. Okay. That is essentially a lie. Okay? And what I mean by that is this. There is absolutely a plan. There is definitive and clear, this is what we're going to do, and a conversation that's being had. They don't just roll out there on Saturday and flip a coin and go, well, I guess it's your day today.
But I wonder if they do it just based on when somebody messes up. Because here's the deal. They did have a plan for game 1, Missouri State. And Bobby Houck actually talked explicitly about the plan in the postgame. He said, hey, we were going to play Ayat, and then we were going to play Fife, and then depending on who was the quarterback for the 4-minute and the 2-minute, that's who was going to play. And they gave Ayat the 4-minute, 2-minute in the first half. They gave Fife the 4-minute and the 2-minute in the second half.
Yep.
They also said the same thing against Western Carolina, that Fife was going to be their guy in the 4-minute in the fourth quarter, and they did that. I don't know. I just wonder, Fife had a couple errant throws in the first, or I guess late first quarter, maybe early second quarter, whatever, and then he didn't really play again after that. Is it based on that?
If it's based on that, that's asinine.
I agree.
Okay, but I don't think that it is based on that. So let me quickly add that.
Sure.
And I would also say in a game that you essentially know you're going to dominate, and that you can do whatever you want. Maybe it is very much a feel thing. Hey, let's get Ayat some reps. He's been out.
See, and that's the thing. That's why I wish they would just say it, because there is no competitive advantage. You just say, hey, we felt like we were going to get out a little bit early. Ayat's been a little banged up. He hasn't got substantial reps in a little while, so we decided this game we're going to get him some reps. He's a freshman. We knew he could have some good success. Let's give him some confidence.
Colter, don't ruin this with sanity. It has nothing to do with competitive advantage. It has nothing to do with anything but axe grinding and wanting to have total control.
Man.
You know, that's all it is. And you know what? Fine. It's your prerogative. You can do what you want to do. What I'm saying is, I think I'm here to give credit.
Sure.
Insofar as to say there is a plan. They know what they're going to do. They are not willing to say it for reasons that boggle every mind in the world. Yeah. But they don't. And that's their choice. They get to they want to go up there and be, Belichick Jr. or whatever, feel free. But the reality is they do have a plan.
For sure.
What the plan is and why is fairly inscrutable. The best I can do, I was sort of ruminating on this, trying to think about what the hell are we doing here? Why would you do this? And if we take you only get better by playing as being a real fundamental mantra of Coach Houck and the program, and you've got two guys that are both very competent quarterbacks, to say the least.
Yep, both good.
Then how do you get them both to progress? I mean, you talked before about how many guys not named Caleb Williams got a rep in the entire August, camp and all the way up. Zero. He got every single one.
These guys were on the sidelines doing shadow reps.
Well, this is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
This is we're going to get as many reps to both guys, and that includes live reps in game as we possibly can to try and bring them both along. That's my assumption. That's the best I can do by observation about why you would go about it this way.
And here's the thing too: is one, they still have a pretty healthy level of success to fall back on, because if you just say, okay, they played a dual quarterback system for the first 5 games of last year, and then they have played a dual quarterback system basically for the duration of this year, probably save Eastern Washington and Weber because Ayat was out. They are 11-3 in the games in which they played 2-quarterback system. Now, I know the expectation at Montana, especially given a lot of the opponents that they play, Northern Colorado included, is to be probably even better than 11-3. But that's why they're not going to ever back down on this, because they could say, well, we're winning 80% of our games by doing this. The other thing is, I will give them credit here. It is nonsensical. It's mind-boggling. There is no real formula for it. It defies the commonplace formula that is used by almost every good football mind that I've ever spoken to. Yet, now they do have 2 guys that are ready for the stretch run, and they're going to probably have a nonsensical quarterback rotation this weekend too against Cal Poly. And then, though, when the scrutiny can come is if you screw around and have a whole bunch of weird quarterback rotations against UC Davis or Montana State or both, and you get your butts kicked because of it, then there's scrutiny to be had. If you have both guys ready for those games and one or both roll in those games and you upset those 2 teams, either one or both, then all of a sudden Bobby Houck, Brent Pease, and his staff get the last laugh.
Well, and I mean, the question is, okay, let's say there's 300 live reps so far in this football season.
Sure.
You could have, and now, of course, Ayat was out with
it's probably about 370.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Well, I mean, it's a good number though. 300 to 400. Yeah.
Let's say 400 just for the roundness.
70 to 75 plays a game, 8 games.
So Ayat was out with injury for 1 game for sure, and I think likely even a second game.
Yeah. Right.
Okay,
because he definitely was out Eastern with an injury.
Totally. Well, the
concussion. And then Weber, I believe, because he played 1 series against Weber, and you saw him kind of ding his hand. I don't know if that's why he didn't play after that or not.
So anyway, point being, even though you put those aside, if the only way you get better is by playing, let's just say, let's put the injuries aside. You get 200 for each guy, and they get 200 plays better. But then what you didn't get was one guy who got 400 plays better,
Right.
and is just potentially balling out, regardless of which guy that was. And also, I mean, there is a level at which, like, here's you want to know why this would never work in the NFL? Because even if you had two quarterbacks that were equally capable and even good, I mean, take Cleveland, for example. Their three best quarterbacks were on the bench.
Right.
But they're all getting paid. They're all professionals, and they all know what's going on. And they're all going to look at you and go, you know where you can stick your two quarterback plan? Right in the old round file, buddy. You know, whereas here, we are talking about an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and
21, whatever.
They will buy in much more easily.
Correct.
And be like, we're here to do this for the team. We'll take mental reps when we're not out there. We'll figure it out. This is, like, we get it. Let's go, and kind of stand behind it, which you have to have if you're going to do something like this. Like, if you have somebody disgruntled,
no doubt,
you got a real problem.
And that's where they're fortunate, because I thought, so Ayat was allowed to talk to the media. So we played about 3 minutes of his post game yesterday on the show.
Yeah, it was very insightful.
I thought so too. He said, they asked him, like, what's it like when you're not in? And he's like, dude, I love it because I get to sit there and I get to watch Logan, and he's doing a really good job. He's playing good football. I'm learning a lot by watching him. So I think he has the right attitude. I think he kind of knows the status of where he's at.
And also, you don't get a response like that if this is just flippantly done.
Sure.
Like, oh, this week I guess it's going to be him because you threw too many incompletions in practice. No, that's not what it is. They're going to sit down.
Right.
Here's the plan. This is what we're going to do. Now everybody's on the same page. And everybody knew coming into the game that Ayat was going to be playing and playing quite a bit. And most notably, the person who needed to know that was Logan Fife. And he had, 8 passing attempts in the game? I mean, he played very little. And I would think there's a level at which that's got to be frustrating for him. But also, if you're told ahead of time that this is what we're going to do and whatever, then you just do that, The
Treasure State University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Griz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the Big Sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Griz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Tuesdays with Tootell, probably presented by Aspen Sound. It's getting chilly out there. Go get an automatic car starter from Aspen Sound. They're experts when it comes to in-car stereo installation, but also awesome when it comes to the auto car starters. They can also tint your windows, get your ride looking nice. Aspen Sound in Missoula on Broadway. You can also visit Aspen Sound /Missoula online. All right.
The last point I'm going to make on this, okay?
Hey, can we make a commitment?
Well, I'm in a happily married relationship.
Same.
But so, yeah, I think if
can we commit to not talking about this next week?
Yes. Well, maybe. No. Because until we see what happens, I mean, this might be
I've said on Nuanez now for 3 weeks in a row, I don't want to talk about this anymore, and then it just is endlessly fascinating.
Well, and it's the number one, the quarterback situation is the number one narrative at Montana,
Yes.
and then the defense is number two.
Yep.
And there's not much else to talk about until we get into
the
UC Davis.
offensive line's better. The run game's really good.
Yeah,
The receivers are awesome given their sort of, I shouldn't say limited opportunities, because when Fife's back there, they get a ton of opportunities. It's just a matter of what kind of the game plan is.
But this point I have not made before.
Okay, I'm ready.
I've talked a lot about losing Ayat potentially, and how you just got to roll with that dude. But he is a freshman, redshirt, and a legacy kid, and he's committed to the University of Montana. This is the only place he's ever been so far. Logan Fife has no ties to the University of Montana. Logan Fife is a transfer portal kid who came in here from Fresno State. And he's got both experience of going to a new school and clearly no problem doing so.
Sure.
As much as anything, I think a lot of this might be to keep Logan Fife here at the University of Montana, because he is a really good quarterback, and they want that quarterback depth, and they probably realize that after those two, maybe there's not a lot in terms of, ability. And so what they're doing in this two-quarterback system is, even if they thought and believed that Ayat is the guy, he's the one we need rolling, it's like, but we have to figure out how to keep Logan Fife in the mix, because we need this guy in the program.
Yeah, I think that would be what you'd think if these people were, how do you say? I don't want to say normal. It's not that they're abnormal.
Oh, yes, it is. And let me just be clear.
They're not. This would be what conventional wisdom would point to, or what the status quo would do. The day that this program placates to any person in an effort to get them to stay in the future will be the day that hell freezes over.
Yeah, that's probably true. It's probably true.
They literally have. This is the irony of it, though, is that the attitude, and I'm not saying this is wrong. I actually think this is a great attitude in certain ways in this current day and age. This is the greatest place in the world. If you want to be here, that's awesome. You get to experience the greatest place in the world. If you don't, you have to leave the greatest place in the world. See you later.
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess who has the least attrition of anybody in the Big Sky Conference? And it's not close.
Yeah.
Montana.
Mm-hmm.
This last year, they were actually kind of hoping that some guys would leave, because they knew they had to plug in some transfers, because they have so many guys that stay. A standard spring ball roster has 70 on it, and you're going to add 30 by the time the fall rolls around. These guys were rolling with 90 guys in spring because everybody wanted to stay.
Yeah.
So testament to winning, testament to a whole bunch of other stuff. Tuesdays with Tootell probably presented in part by good old Grizzlies, the NIL collective helping usher Montana into the modern era of college athletics. They're hosting various pint nights around the city of Missoula, which is a cool deal. Basically, you just go to the place, you drink your beer that you're going to drink anyways, and they donate a part of the proceeds to the NIL collective. We'll let you know what's going on with upcoming pint nights, but you can always follow us, Skyline Sports MT, on Twitter, or Good Old Grizzlies. It's not Good Old Grizzlies. There is a Good Old Grizzlies guy who had the Twitter account for a long time, and now he's getting all these people inquiring. It's Good Old OL Grizzlies, but they'll be tweeting about the pint nights and to let you know where they're at. They've had a couple at the Den. I know they have maybe one coming up with Kettle House, which should be fun. Good Old Grizzlies. Visit goodoldgrizzlies.com or follow them on social media. All right, Idaho beat up on Eastern Washington. I should say beat up. It's actually a pretty good game.
1 by 10.
Yeah, it was a pretty good game. Eastern had a nice kick return at the end to keep it close. The news out of this game, probably on the Idaho side, is twofold. One, Jack Lane returns to the lineup. He'd been out for the last 7 weeks with a broken collarbone. I thought he looked good. Threw for 235 and 2 touchdowns. Just the confidence of his operation is just superior to all the other quarterbacks. The other thing was they saw the emergence of Deshaun Buchanan. He was one of their star recruits that they got. He had to take an academic redshirt last year. Then he got banged during fall camp, so he was out early this year. He's a really talented running back. Anybody that's familiar with high school recruiting in Arizona, he's from Basha High School, which won the Arizona State Championship. Those that don't know about this, Arizona plays an open state championship, so everybody can play in it. Doesn't matter what classification you're in. Basha won this. Deshaun Buchanan's senior year, so very good. And he went kind of crazy. He had 116 yards and 2 touchdowns in basically his first real full-time game, and his first 2 touchdowns of his career. So those are the two sort of storylines for Idaho. And then on the eastern side, they're fighting. They're fighting better than they were the last couple of years. but fighting and not winning is tough. They had the hardest league schedule to start out. They beat Sac. They were in it with Montana. They lost by 3. They were in it with Idaho. They lost by 10. And now they got Montana State coming down. They lost to UC Davis by 10. So, okay, shoulda, coulda, woulda, close, but no cigar.
I spent all the words on teams that don't matter on Sac State, so I don't want to talk about Eastern Washington.
They don't matter.
I will say about Idaho, getting Jack Lane back is not all that different to me from Shohei Ohtani getting injured and not being himself, but still the presence in the batter's box. Like, if he's good enough to roll out there, the just factor of him being in the lineup and being the guy just changes the complexion of any baseball team, in this case the Dodgers. And Jack Lane playing for Idaho, and obviously, you need to be healthy. You have to have some floor of physical capability to roll out there and go. But again, the Idaho team that we saw play Montana is not the Idaho team that we saw play Oregon. And
Montana State, you mean?
Montana State, pardon me. Yes.
Yeah, the dumbest thing in the world is that Idaho and Montana don't play this year.
Totally, yeah. My mistake. But yeah, in Bozeman.
Yep.
But this is one, but a very significant piece of the return to who Idaho is. And again, if they get healthy enough and are able to go on a winning streak here, if they're able to kind of come all the way back, and like you talked about, the emergence of guys who are really talented players that are just kind of emerging now, they are still a very dangerous team. And I think that it's easy for folks in the state of Montana to kind of be like, well, good luck, because we saw the gap that was there between the Cats and the Vandals. And it's still there. I think all hands on deck. The Cats are obviously the better team. They're the best team in the Big Sky. But, you don't want to just put the Vandals to bed just yet.
Well, they have a favorable schedule. They played a front-loaded, unfavorable schedule.
Yep.
Every team they played was either FBS or ranked. Mm-hmm. They went 4-3 in the schedule, which, is what it is. But the Cats had this ridiculous schedule last year, and guess what? They went 2-4 during it, and that's why they went 8-4, and that's why they lost in the first round of the playoffs, or the second round of the playoffs.
Right.
Idaho got to 4-3, and then you got 5 games left where you are the decided favorite. You got one done this week. You're probably going to have big time favoritism the rest of the way, and you get to 9-3 with that schedule.
Yeah,
I think you're a playoff seed.
Yeah.
Tuesdays with Tootell. Presented by Wear Your Roots Clothing. Speaking of KLEI Yacht, they have a custom game day t-shirt at Wear Your Roots. They're also doing a big giveaway. If you go into the store, 225 Higgins Avenue, you can get a chance to win. They have a big giveaway coming up leading up to the UC Davis night game, the next Griz home game. Win a Griz Montana flag, all sorts of merchandise, gift cards. The giveaway just continues to expand, so just go down there. Go down there. Every $5 you spend, you get a chance to enter into the giveaway, which will be drawn in a couple weeks. Wear Your Roots Clothing Shop at mymontanaroots.com.
Last question for you.
Okay, I have one more for you, too.
Okay, good. This week, Montana State both travel.
Correct.
They both go on the road to
third week in a row that there's no game in Montana.
Isn't that something?
It's the first time in my 18 years covering the Big Sky Conference. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on?
Just keep typing. But they both go on the road to 2-5 teams. They're both going to be heavily favored to win. Montana State
Correct.
at Eastern Washington and the Grizzlies at Cal Poly.
Yep.
Which of these, I won't say is more competitive, but which of these is the more interesting matchup?
Montana State at Eastern Washington, no question. Because Eastern Washington's still a tough place to play.
Yeah.
Eastern Washington is not all 2-6 teams are created equal.
No doubt.
Eastern Washington's way better than Cal Poly. I'm not saying Eastern Washington's by any means good.
Right.
But Eastern has already had to play all of the good teams. They've already had to play Idaho. They've already had to play Montana. They get the best team this week at Montana State. They already had to play Sac. They already had to play Davis. Sac might not be, quote-unquote, one of the best teams, but even if they're the 6th team, they still already had to play them.
Do you see this as being any kind of trap for Bob?
I don't think it's a trap because I think the Cats will be ready coming off of a bye.
Yeah.
But I also think, though, that just in terms of a pure matchup, the Cats are good defensively. They're good in the secondary. but they do play a lot of man and a lot of quarters, and Eastern can feast on. I mean, Efton Chisholm's one of the best players in the conference. Like
Yes.
this point blank period, he's one of the best players in the
One of the
conference.
best players in the country.
There's no question. I mean, he went over 300 catches last week. There's one other guy in Eastern history that has that. His name's Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, they have a nice
So-
wide receiver legacy at school.
Yeah,
Sure.
so to be second in career catches, you had a good career. So, and Kakovas Barris, I mean, again, he's good. Like, he was a third-team All-League guy last year at quarterback. He can move and groove a little bit. He did get hurt against Idaho. Looked like an ankle to me. I don't know if he's going to be back or not. We'll see. Cal Poly has played actually a relatively easy schedule, and they're still 2-6.
Yeah.
So, I think the Grizz will relatively smash. I don't know what that means because I don't know if they're going to do the same thing this week where they're just going to try to win 24-0 or what.
It's so weird to go play in Greeley in a like not even glorified high school stadium and then go play at Cal Poly, which is one of the coolest venues,
No doubt.
But nonetheless, the environment is like you almost like you're playing in a museum than like a football stadium.
Yes.
Like the Art Deco architecture and like
Everybody
all the
goes 'cause it's fun to be
stucco, and
outside.
It's beautiful, it's spectacular. One of the great institutions in the country.
Oh, no question.
What they do is
No question.
physics and everything else. So it's great, but I mean, I don't know if there's a weirder cross section of like fields and places to play than what you get in the Big
No
Sky
doubt.
Conference.
I was going to ask you a question about the Packers, but we'll have to save it for next week because they're summoning us to the weekly sales meeting.
Okay.
Tuesdays with Tootell here
Go
on
Pack, go.
the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series, proudly presented in part by the Press Box. Press Box hosting a Sunday show every Sunday at 5 p.m. Samuel Akem under the helmet, interviewing various Griz running backs. So you can go check that out at the Press Box, 5 p.m. on Sundays. You can also check out that content. SkySportsMT.com, Samuel Akim's YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, and the Big Sky Breakdown podcast. Thanks for being here, Gus.
My pleasure.
Is it will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again? Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.